Hey there, Darren Elias here to review another hand from a recent Triton 100K event and previewing my upcoming course release in May, where I'm going to be releasing a collaboration with Nick Petrangelo for Upswing on tournament poker, breaking down how both me and Nick think about the game, really giving you guys a combination of what I've learned in my experience playing 15, 20 years of tournament poker and Nick's as well. Also, kind of blending our knowledge of Nick's solver, technical expertise, and my experience with live players and both live and online playing against different player types and how we're going to adapt and some more exploitative strategies, combining those with the fundamental GTO foundations that we're going to learn as well. So, really looking forward to the release of this course. Been putting a lot of work into it this year, and my first time talking about tournament strategy publicly in my whole career. So, really looking forward to this and something I think you guys should all check out. So, without further ado, getting into this hand from Triton 100K day one. This is an interesting multi-way spot and something we should be always have in our mind, and the real takeaway here is who we're playing against and what we think of their skill level, what we think of their capability, and what to do when we don't know the answer to those questions.
Limpy Pimpy. No, it's Pimpy Limpy.
Pimpy Limpy.
Yeah, it was Croatian. That's right. I mean, like, I played a lot of hands with this guy.
How many hands is a lot of hands for you?
I don't know the
'Cause
number.
You played a lot of hands last
I
time.
mean, like, I was playing this guy every day for, like, several weeks straight, I feel.
Wow.
I actually don't really remember who came out on top. It was a lot of fun. Back then, it was a lot of ego wars. You would just play someone like, yeah, you want to play me? I'm going to show you up. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Poker's a bit different now, as everyone's very well respected. Lots of street poker back in the day. Solvers wasn't really a thing.
This hand starting off with David Peters opening early position with pocket fives, playing fairly deep. This is something around 70, 80 big blinds. We've got Philip Nagy, recreational player, owner of a big online card room, calling here with pocket nines and the hijack, and Nagy going to fall into our categories. As in this course, I do have 5 different player types, that 5 different people you're going to run into in poker tournaments, and Nagy falling into the type 4 category of a recreational player who seems to play on the looser side. And that's something that's going to be very useful and something that gets mentioned throughout the course, how we're going to adapt to those different player types and how we can win the most money playing against the specific players we're playing against. So this hand pre-flop finishes with Sebastian here calling in the cutoff with pocket 8s and Anson completing in the big blind with Jack 10 offsuit.
Jack 10 is looking pretty good against these 3 little pairs. Flops it, although I see an 8 for Sebastian.
Yeah. Flopping middle set. Anson going to be in trouble here.
Two nines is not looking too bad on his flop. We'll play cautious as well. Now, of course, Sebastian mid-set doesn't want this one to check around 4 ways. He knows that Jack X is a decent part of these opponents' ranges. Puts in some chips. Looks like a clear-cut call for Jack 10, although he is drawing
What about
very
the nines
slim.
now, Randy, given the Anson overcall?
After seeing a bet and a call, I think he can pitch this one. If he had the 9 of spades, it would be a lot more helpful, holding some backup. But you know, the price is good where I wouldn't fault him if he flicked it in for 7K more. Looks like that's what he's going to do. No? Is that raising chips?
It certainly looks that way.
Phil Nagy. Talking about wanting to win some pots. This is aggressive. It's a little bit of an odd choice of a hand to use. Suppose he finds that the small bet 4 ways seems weak. Him check raising into 2 people would look strong. I'll give him that.
And this check raise from Nagy potentially going to save Anson from losing more chips in this.
Yeah, quickly out of there, Jack 10.
Interesting flop with Sebastian flopping middle set in position, Nagy with pocket nines, and the big blind here flopping top pair. Checks to Sebastian in the cutoff, who I believe puts in something around a quarter pot bet, which is fairly standard that we're going to see a lot of small bets in multi-way pots like this, something that we've learned from computers, and using that idea of leverage where we are able to leverage the other players in the pot against each other with these small bets and not really needing to put in a lot of big bets when we're going 4 ways to the flop. So Sebastian does put in this quarter pot bet and gets called by the big blind with Jack 10, which is kind of already an uncomfortable call there with Jack 10. Certainly not loving our life out of position against 3 players. Early position opener in there. Not a ton of great turns for the Jack 10, but does continue. And Nagy here in between with pocket nines and what any strong player computer would tell you is a pretty easy fold here with a bet and call in front, deciding to put in a 5x raise here to 35k. And pocket eights, not really a ton we're going to do besides call here on the flop, but really needing to stop here and take a beat, thinking about who we're playing against and what they're capable of. Because when playing against these type 4 players, there's always going to be the chance that they're doing something random like this. So this is kind of I call it the random nonsense factor of anytime we're playing against loose recreational players, they're going to have hands in their ranges that we're going to have a difficult time putting in there. So pocket nines here with no spade. Not if you gave a good player 100 guesses at Nagy's holdings here in the hijack when he calls and then check raises this flop, 9 of clubs, 9 of diamonds, probably not going to be in there, and a hand we're going to have a difficult time putting him on. However, we do know what type of player he is and that he will have a class of hands like this that are sort of random bluffs that do not make sense. And how do we adapt knowing he has that class of hands, and what do we do here with a set of eights? And the general strategy, what we do against these type 4 players is keep it sort of a hyper simple strategy in not folding good hands post flop and really using the absolute strength of our hand here, where we have pocket eights, we have 3 of a kind against a player of unknown skill level and unknown capability.
Interesting card. Spades come in. Straight comes in. He's got the 9 blocker to 10-9. He's seen his opponent bet weak on the flop. Just called a check raise. Maybe Phil Nagy thinks he can put pressure on King Jack, Ace Jack, Jack 10. He's a bit worried. Tricky for 2 8s. Does he bet here? Trying to get value, extract, and protect against a queen of, well, a random spade? Or does he play cautious in case he gets jammed on? Bet it is.
This one's setting the price as well, Randy. In position.
Just so much in the middle, right? That he just would feel it's too much to let a free card off. You know, like there's a lot of bad cards that come on the river, right? 10, 9, spade. It's a lot of the deck. Nagy puts a time card in there. He's thinking about making a pretty epic raise, I feel. Really hard to imagine 2 9s to want to check call this turn. But, oh my, is that the double check raise? Henry, the double check raise. Is he trying to get the trifecta in there, the triple check raise?
I haven't seen a triple check raise in years, Randy. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen a double check raise
In years.
in years either, especially on one of the biggest stages in the poker world, the 100K Triton Super High Roller Series main. Phil Nagy, ladies and gentlemen.
Nagy now checks on this flush completer, Queen of Spades, and not a card that Sebastian likes to see, as it does complete both the open-ender and the flush. Definitely a couple different ways he can proceed. Probably going to be a little surprised by Nagy's check here. And I think if you're Sebastian, you have two options here. I think one being check back and pot control this, planning to either call most bets on the river that are non-spade or value bet the river if check to. I think that's certainly a viable option. Or the other option would be to bet here and not fold. I think that's the other good option against a type 4 player. So he comes with something around 30% pot here, and Nagy now with a gut shot and still not holding a flush draw in his hand, no spade, could easily be drawing dead here, actually puts in another check raise. So really creative, aggressive play from Nagy, and something you will see out of type 4 players. These loose recreational players will invent bluffing lines with hands that don't necessarily make sense intuitively. And how we're going to respond to this check raise is something that we need to weigh the possibilities of what's going on in Nagy's range and in his head. So I think he raises to something around 100,000 here. We've got check raise to 105K. And these guys are playing around 250K, so if Sebastian does call this check raise, stacked pot ratio is going to be under 1. We're going to be playing fairly shallow here. And Sebastian really kind of put to the test here, but you have to ask yourself, what is more likely? There are kind of two scenarios going on. One, Nagy check raised the flop with a flush draw and then chose to check raise again with a fairly shallow SPR, and has really got you in the trap and has played a flush strangely for value. That's the one alternative. I guess sometimes we see 9-10 too, a flush or a straight. I suppose he could play this way for value. That's on one hand. And the other possibility is he doing something weird and random and bluffing. And this is something we always have to consider with type 4 and type 5 players as well. Type 5 being the other type of recreational player on the tighter side. Is he making some sort of random bluff with a hand that does not make sense or should not be in his range? And there's always going to be this factor of that when playing against recreational players. And we have to really take it on a case-by-case basis as how likely is it for that player to be doing something like that. And B, the other part of it, the equation in weighing how we continue, how strong is our hand, and what is our position in the hand, and holding 3/8 here, having third set and playing against a player of unknown capability and unknown skill level. I don't think we can fold just on the absolute strength of our hand, knowing that Nagy is going to be doing some, pardon my French, some random shit like this with hands like 9 of clubs, 9 of diamonds.
And Sebastian Guel is getting put in the absolute blender here after flopping a set of 8s. No spade in hand. 8s.
Oh
hit
my, he
the mark.
laid down a set. Phil Nagy. Oh my gosh. Is that sick, Henry, or what?
And I'm not even sure computer-wise, if we were to put this in a hand playing against good players, elite players, I still don't know if pocket 8s would be a fold here. I think we have to call. Just knowing we could still have a full house, it is still possible we could have the best hand here. I don't think I would fold even versus a good player, but versus a type 4 player, we absolutely cannot fold because of that sort of random factor of situations like this. And this is something that happens a lot in poker tournaments when playing against recreational players and unknown players, is they're going to show up with hands that are very difficult to put them on. And instead of, I don't want to say wasting time, instead of really thinking about the individual combos and trying to pinpoint range players like this, we should operate more under what we talked about with weighing the absolute strength of our hand against the chance that they are making some sort of a random play like this, some big bluff with a combo that doesn't really make sense. So very interesting hand there, and well done to Nagy getting that bluff through. Definitely something we don't see much, in a very creative double check raise there. So cool stuff.